Okay, so today we're going to do exercise 223, which is the exterior night rendering. And you have a lot of what you need already to switch to the exterior night rendering. Last class, we just did the interior night rendering. So theoretically, you already have the HDRI and everything loaded into the background, so you're ready to perform that rendering. Remember, like I said last time, once we have our HDRIs loaded, we can always save and switch between day and night by turning off the sun and reloading the V-Ray options through the VisOpt file. So I can go in here and I can go to load and I can go to my folder here. And here's my interior day, interior night, interior sunset. I can pick any one of those options and I can flip to that. So let's go back to the interior night. This will get the bulk of the settings already set for me. And now it's time to start thinking about the exterior view and how and what do I want to do to try to light the exterior view. Do I want to do anything specific, etc. I'm going to go on a few tangents today just to show you how to do a few things that people find interesting, because I don't need to review loading the HDRI. I think you guys have that down by now and knowing how to switch. So at this point, I need to kind of think about my view, and I have a view that I already had saved. If I went to set view and I went to perspective 1, I think that was my exterior view. I could do this same view, certainly, for my nighttime rendering, but sometimes a nighttime rendering is particularly nice if we're looking at a surface that can be washed with light, or we see light spill out of the building. So we may end up picking a slightly different view to have access to that. So for example, if I was down in here looking at this wall, if I had lights installed here, they would wash out from my building onto this wall or down onto this. If I flip my view around and looked out this way, theoretically, light from inside here should spill out and onto the paving here. So you want to think about where is a good place to actually see the building at night. And usually that involves some kind of a surface on the ground level that light can spill out onto. If you're spilling out onto grass, it's a lot harder to do the rendering because you have to figure out how to render the grass, and spilling out onto just a modeled surface isn't going to look that good. So if you have some kind of a paving surface, that's the ideal place to have the light spill out. Furthermore, a lot of times people want to add some extra light for their building to kind of illuminate their building versus the rest of the surroundings. And so we have a couple different strategies for that. I could, for example, create a little light fixture that went on each of these posts with a light that's shown up on my building. That would be one strategy. To do that, I'm not going to spend my time actually modeling the light fixture right now. I'm just going to install the spotlight and show you what that would look like. The other thing is, from an exterior view, frequently it's nice to switch your lens lake. Interior is probably at 18, exterior maybe more 28. That seems like a little bit better, maybe a 35 in terms of that view. So let me go ahead and install those little light fixtures or spotlights. I'm going to load the V-Ray toolbar because I don't have that currently loaded. I'm going to go to Tools, Toolbar Layout, and I'll go to File and then Open. And on my flash drive, under my Resources folder, is my V-Ray toolbar. There it is. And this, then, I can install my spotlight. So I'm going to create my spotlight. The base of my cone, let me turn on my object snap here, turn on end, mid, and perpendicular, and I'll put it right there on this particular post. My diameter will be 1 foot. Or I guess, excuse me, my radius will be 1 foot. It is. And when it comes to doing the height, I want that to be at 1 foot, but sometimes you have to work maybe in the top view, type 1 foot there, and my building's on an angle, so that complicates things a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and put it right there. Then I'll go ahead and move this spotlight so that it's slightly out from my post. I'll rotate this spotlight And the good news about lights is they don't have to be perfect. So we're just going to get it approximately correct, something like that. I probably need to do a little bit of a rotate 3D to get it pointing up at the building a bit more. So let me do rotate 3D, and I will rotate from there, and I'm going to go up just a bit so that it's pointing up at my building, maybe about like that. Then I'm also going to move this down, so move vertical, and I'll drop this down so it's not quite so, maybe not. I'll do it in this view, it'll be a little bit easier. So it's not quite so high on my post. Something like that. Now I need to get into the light properties. So with the light selected here, I'll go to my light properties. My units are going to be in radiant power, or watts. My decay is going to be inverse square. My color, if I can see it, there we go, is going to be 255, 214, 170. I'll go ahead and say OK. There it is. And I already have it inverse square. I have numbers in here, so it shouldn't be a dead bulb. Now it's time to give it a little bit of a test. I probably need more than 30. We'll go to 100. And let me step back a little bit. And before I do a test render, I am going to go into my V-Ray options and make sure that my output is small. So it's 100 by 223. No reason to waste a lot of rendering power. And now that I'm kind of seeing it, we'll go ahead and do a quick little render. And in this case, we can see that I'm lighting up the face of my building, the facade, with an uplight, so to speak. Sometimes people don't want the uplight look. And in this particular scenario, I would probably copy these and put one on each of these posts shining up at the building. Maybe like that. So there'd be one there. So sometimes, though, you don't want the uplight. Sometimes you want something a little bit softer. I could, for example, install a light right along the lip of this little ledge there to wash light going down the building. In that case, a rectangular light would work a little bit better. So I'm going to come over to rectangular light, and I'm going to create a rectangular light that runs right along this surface. So we'll start there, and we'll come to right there. And then I'm going to snap back to the edge. There's that little rectangular light. And so you can see it there. I do have to make sure that it's lower than the edge. So right now, it's actually a little bit tipped. I might need to recreate that. Hold on a second. Do this one more time here. There we go. Come on, snap for me. There we go. All right, so there's that rectangular light. I'm going to move that slightly lower than this lip. So we'll move just a bit down. Maybe like that. Then I need to work through the rectangular light settings. These are a little bit harder to predict because it's based on the size of the rectangle. So you have to kind of do a little guessing and checking to see. So a couple things. One, we'll do the color first, 255, 214, and 170. My units, I'll again go to watts. And my intensity, I'm guessing this is going to be more like 200. I also want to make the light invisible. And you can choose to have it double-sided or not. In my case, it doesn't need to be double-sided. And the rest of these options are just fine. Now it's time to do that practice again. So we'll do a test render here. And so in this scenario, while this is not the highest quality rendering, you can see that that little bar of light underneath washing that wall is certainly working. And so it may take some finesse. Maybe that was a little bit too strong. Maybe it should be half that. We'll try 100 maybe and see how it works. I could also install one here. So the point is that you need to think through the exterior lighting as well as the interior lighting. How do you want to light the building? And maybe looking at different architectural photograph collections would help you figure out what it is that you wanted to create. So the other thing that people tend to like to render as part of their drawings is they like to render water, or they like to render pools or fountains or that sort of thing. For the fun of it today, I'm going to show you how to build and create like a little hot tub or something like that, and then we'll render it, we'll put lights in it, and you can do that as part of your nighttime renderer. So I'm going to create it right here on the edge of my building. I'm going to tack it on here. Not that that's necessarily the best strategy. To do that, I do want to open up my original block, and then we'll update it. And give me a second to open this up here. So this would be the retreat base file. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and switch back into shaded mode for a second. There we go. And I said I was going to put it right off of this piece right here. So let me go ahead and give myself a new layer. We'll call this pool. And let me do a new sublayer there. And I'll start with the pool walls. We make that active. There we go. And I need to build out the interior of the pool. So we'll go ahead, let me go into standard here. And let's see, I'm going to start, let me turn on my object snap, end, center, perpendicular, and mid. We'll start right there. Turn on ortho here for a second. Let's see. I'll go out by 6 feet, and we'll go over. And let's go out by 7 feet. We'll go over by 8 feet. And there's perpendicular. Let me offset that by 1 foot. And then we will extrude these guys down. And let me make them solid. And I don't know, we'll go down. I'm going to go down a lot further than I need to because I know this is going to intersect a bit. And I should have, before I did that, close these ends. Turn off center snap there, sorry. There. There, and I'll take these and join them, extrude, curve, make sure that it is solid, and we'll drop it down like that. So I'm creating the framework for this. Obviously, I need a floor that's not that deep. I don't need my hot tub to be that deep. So let me go ahead and create a floor. And then let me move this vertically, and we'll drop it down, I don't know, 4 feet or so. Oops, how about move vertical? Should have been -4 feet. There we go. And so we're creating the bottom of that pool. So next thing I need to do is I need to add in whatever the stone cap is that would be on the top, the coping, so to speak. If you wanted to do some kind of a never-ending edge, you could probably do that. Maybe I'll do that on one edge for the fun of it. But for right now, let me just do the caps. I'll start here. And sometimes the easiest strategy, let's do that, like that. And then let me scale 1D. To get this to come out to the end there. And I also, let me find out how wide this is. That's 14 inches, so let me do a scale 1D and make this 16 inches so that it extends that way just a little bit. I'm just going to mirror this across to make that side. Scale 1D. All right, so that would then represent the coping around the outside of the pool. Then I need a surface inside the pool that would represent the water. So we can go ahead and I'm going to switch my display into ghosted display here just so I can see through this a little bit better. And we'll go ahead and create a surface. And it can just be a flat surface. That's the advantage here, is I can just create a nice flat surface. We're going to change the surface in V-Ray as we render. There it is. Let me move it vertically. Say, I don't know, negative 3 inches. There we go. So there's our water surface. The upper part of this probably should be tile or something. So let me go ahead and add another surface here. This one will be larger. We'll move this vertically 8 inches, negative 8 inches to get it below the surface of the water. Excellent. Now I can take this shape and we can explode it. I can also take this shape and explode it. And this will allow me to take the interiors. Sorry, right. Nope, come on now. Do it from the inside here. Those ones, and I can split those with this plane, which gives me those upper little surfaces. I've got a little bit of a problem here because I need another little bit of tile right in there. I'm going to cheat it a bit and just create a vertical plane and move it out so that I don't have to split my wall out. So take this and we'll move it by like a ½ inch. There we go. So I can use this and we switch back into shaded mode here. This and that and that and that are all going to be tile. So let me add a new sublayer here for tile. Let me add a new layer for the water. Okay, I can delete this surface altogether. That should be underwater. All right, sounds pretty good. Now I need to apply some materials, and obviously I need to get rid of these parts of my railing so that you could actually get into the hot tub that's sitting there on the side. Okay, so let's get through some materials. I'm going to open my V-Ray material editor, and in my scene materials, I'm going to go ahead and go into load material, and on my flash drive in my V-Ray resources folder, I'm going to go into water. And in water, I have a couple different water options. I have a lake, I have an ocean, and I have a fountain. The fountain's of a small scale, so that's a good one. So I'm going to load up the water fountain material. And if we come down here to water fountain, and we look at the preview, you don't see too much. But we'll go ahead and apply that to my water layer. So under pool, hold on, I have to figure out where I am here. I've used this same file a couple times, so I have lots of pools. Let me do it the opposite way. I'm going to apply the material here because I can't find it. And here is my water fountain. There we go. So that's then applied to this material. I'm going to take my little coping here, these guys, and I'm going to match them to this. So let's find out what this is on. This is on my roof cap layer. So I can type match properties and select objects to modify. It's going to be these guys here. I'll hit enter. Then it says select source object. I'll pick this. And here is where I can choose what to match. I'm going to move it on its layer. The rest of this is all fine, and I want the material to change. Go ahead and say OK. Now that should have changed as well. We can verify it if we go into rendered mode. We should be able to see, yep. But I do want my texture mapping to match too. So I'm going to come over to texture mapping, and I'm going to say match mapping to this. This one, I'm going to match mapping to this. This one, I'm going to match mapping to this. So I'm using the fact that I already have created that to make this an easy transition. Similarly, I'm going to do the outside here. I want that to match up with these. So let me first off match properties. It's going to be this, and this, and this. I'm only picking the outsides. I'll hit enter. This is the one that I want to match it to. Everything there except for name. And say OK. Then I also need to match my texture mapping on all of these. And I'll match my texture mapping there as well. Perfect. So now my outside material is set. The inside here, the inside of the pool, these pieces, I might need to make them some kind of like a gray or something. So let's take those. Actually, they're already on their own layer, I think. Let me go into my V-Ray materials. And I may already have just a gray. There's a pool gray. It was just a plain gray material, nothing fancy about it. And so I can apply that to this pool layer. I'll right click and say, I'll click on the little material here and then browse for my pool gray. There it is. Perfect. So I have that as a pool gray. I still have my tile, so let me select these guys. And for my tile, I need some kind of like a blue color or whatever color I want the tiles to be. I could just create this. I'll go into Scene Materials, Create Material, Standard. And let's call this Pool Tile Blue. I'll pick a nice dark blue for it. And then I want to add some reflection to it. So I'll create layer, reflection. And now I should have a reflective blue. We'll go with that for right now. And so let me apply material to selection. Now it's applied to that as well. So I have that blue established there at the water line. OK, so now I have these pieces ready. I'm going to go ahead and save this in my base file. And it's time to move over into my master site file. It's going to show up right here, which is where I want it to. And I'll go to my Edit, Blocks, Block Manager. And there's my retreat base. It's newer. Let's go ahead and update it. And it updated, and there's my little pool that's sitting there. That's pretty good. All of my material should have come in nicely. The only thing that I don't have yet is the actual light for the pool. If I switch, though, for a second, we can confirm that all of this is working. If I go into my V-Ray options and I load up the daytime, and again, I should have the size of my output still set to small. So let me drop this down so we can do our test render here. We can look at the pool itself, probably about like that, and we can go ahead and render, and we can confirm that all the materials look the way that they should, or approximately the way that they should. Oh, I have to turn the sun back on. My fault. Here we go. Let's try that one more time. I don't have any of the grass turned on, so we're not going to get that. But I am getting the pool. I'm getting a little bit of reflection. OK, that's not too bad. So now let's look at that at night. So I'm going to switch everything back to the night settings. There we go. I'm going to turn the sun off. And now I need to install a pool light. So in this case, I'm going to use a rectangular light. I'll create the rectangular light to match the size of the pool. There it is. I need to make sure that the arrow here is pointing up. Right now the arrow is pointing down. So I'm going to type flip. And that's going to point the arrow up. I'm going to move this below the surface a bit. So let me type V for vertical. And we'll say, I don't know, negative 12 inches. There we go. And then I'll get into my V-Ray properties. We're going to do it in watts, but it's going to have to be a lot higher. So we'll do maybe 300 watts. We want it to be invisible. And in terms of color, this is where we get to play around a little bit. So we can actually pick kind of a bluish color, maybe something like that, and have a look at what that's going to look like. OK, so let me get my view set. We'll do something more along the lines of this here. And then we'll go ahead and do a test render again. All right, so we're getting glow out of the pool, which is the whole point. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with the way the glow is coming out of the pool. I'm going to refine my view just a little bit so I can really dial in and get the right part and the proportions of my building. Then today, I will actually let this render out in high quality so you can see what the pool looks like and see what the light settings look like, etc. The rest of today, assuming that you guys did the HDRI last class, is more modeling and getting there. Remember, going forward, we're going to move into kind of doing sections and then doing actual plans and elevations and that sort of thing, because I want to teach you that part of this. So at this point, today's kind of the last day of major modeling, because we're going to move from doing real modeling into doing drawings and whatever from your model. So I think as much as I can possibly encourage you to get done, now's the time. Okay? So get done with the model. Because going forward, next week, we're going to be doing drawings and whatever from it. So now's the time to be done, get the renderings done, and then we'll move into the drawings. I mean, there's only one real week left after this week. So, and then it's finals week, and you know how that goes. All right, yeah. All right, so I'll do a higher quality rendering so you can see what this looks like in its full rendering. And hopefully that was mildly entertaining for you.